Hello everybody, back here for another update. So, as you can see, I've done some work on the top frame. Specifically, what I've done is welded on the L brackets on the side. Let me get out of the sun here. L brackets on the side of the frame to strengthen it. Welded that little pipe on the side here for the shift plate. Obligatory Cocoa Face says hi. Let's see. Next, finished off the full wheel hoop. So that is now completed. Kind of ran out of material on that side, so I just got a short little stubby one, but that should be okay. Now I need to build the hoop for the fans for the wind sim. The structure for that, I'm going to build that out of aluminum and mount all 3 fans up top. And then I'm not sure if I had that done in the last video, but that's the rest of the mounting brackets for the seat. It's not completely done yet. I still have to grind it smooth. Still got some sharp bits there. So next over we have the motor carriage for the pitch and roll motors. That is all wired up with the potentiometers. Excuse me, with the potentiometers on there. And then I've got those wired to the plugs. And then I have the frame here, and that is wired up as well. Both the surge motor back here and the traction loss motor are both welded up. Those I've actually run the cables through the frame and I separated them. I've got little dividers welded in here to make sure that the cables stay separated, so that way the power doesn't leak over into the potentiometer cables and give me too much noise on there. And then I am building out the rest of the traction loss frame. Hopefully this will prevent this front end from twisting, as that single spine just connected down there to the T is, I mean, it's so long and it just twists. At least it did when it had the other top frame on. I don't know if it'll do it on this one, but I don't want to find out. I'm just gonna just build it while I've got it apart. So I'm gonna cut these down and then screw them all in and get that all nice and solid. So the next thing that I've been working on, that's a bit of foreshadowing, but it is the control box. So let's kind of walk you through it. I've got all 4 of the Arduino Unos set up right there. And then you can see all 4 of the plugs there. We got the 2 24-volt fans for cooling, which leads us on to the IBT2s. Which one can you see better? You can see these kind of better. So I'm running IBT2s in parallel, and then I'm running double stacks of heat sinks. So each IBT2 has a heat sink on bottom and top. And so that's basically 8 IBT2s with 16 heat sinks on there. Currently, I have all of the IBT2s wired up to the 2 Arduinos that run them, and it goes. These 2 inboard ones are the pitch and roll motors, and then the 2 outboard ones are traction loss and surge. So I believe I'm going to make the top Arduino pitch and roll and the bottom one surge and roll, or pitch and roll and then surge and traction loss. And then these 2 Arduinos with the 2 Moto Monsters are the fan sim controllers. So those are wired up into the 12-volt LED power supply, and then I've got those soldered onto 2 connections over here. One of them is a can we see it? Yeah, 4-pin. The other one is a 2-pin. For the 3 motors will have 2 wires coming out, so 6 wires total. So that'll be all the pins for that. Here are the pins for the potentiometers. So 4 potentiometers, 3 pins each. Those are wired up into my positive negative breadboard and then into the 2 Arduinos. So that aspect of it is completely wired up. The only thing I have left to do is to get these 4, not that one, these 4 motors soldered up, basically. Well, I have to do the power from each of the IBT2s going into, I've got 3 24-volt power supplies, one here, one underneath the 12-volt, and then another one here. And it's kind of the, you can probably see better from this side, yeah. You see those are double stacked with a little bit of space in between there. So those are all going to get wired up, and then I'll have the 4 power cables. These 4 power cables here will go in. Let's see, trying to get the front of this thing. We'll go in through this hole right here, come down underneath the Arduinos, and then split out into the 4 power supplies, and then I'm going to send them all into another 4-pin right here. I'll focus. This 4-pin right here, which will come out of the bottom somewhere right there, will get wired up to my emergency stop button. And then so since I've got a 12-volt and a 24-volt, luckily this emergency stop, come on, focus, has 2 different sets, so I can run 24-volt through one side and 12-volt through the other side. So I'll have to run 2 wires up to there, so 2 of those will go up to it, and then 2 to return, and then those will split all back out into the power supplies for our emergency stop. And this thing is pretty much almost complete. Like I said, just gotta wire the power for everything in, and then wire up the motors. But in order to wire up the motors, I have to know which polarity to solder on to here, to know how the motors are oriented with the potentiometers. In order to do that, what you have to do is you basically have to have everything connected, like the potentiometers connected and wired up, and then connect the 2 Arduinos to your computer, and then make sure that you can get a reading of each of the 4 potentiometers. And then you have to connect basically each one of the IBT2s to power in order to find out whether your polarity is correct. And so what I'm going to do for that is I've got a 12-volt battery over there by the chair right there, and then I've got a couple of wires that I put spade connectors on that I will connect to the IBT2 and then connect to the battery, and then I'll have the 2 motor wires coming out, and they'll come over, and I'll basically have to touch the wires to the terminal and then see if the motor rotates in the correct orientation and stops when it's at center like it should, or if it over rotates. And if it over rotates, then I'll have to flip it, and then once I figure out the orientation it needs to be, then I'll solder everything there. But remember, since they're in parallel, I have to connect both of those 2 together into there. But that's essentially what I have left to do. And then, like I said, I've got to create another one of these, essentially, that will, instead of holding 1 mount and made out of steel, will be made out of aluminum, and will be able to hold the other 2 as well. So I'll have all 3, 1 center, 1 off to the left, 1 off to the right, because that's how the channels for the WinSim are inside of SimHub. So I've got to create that, finish up the traction loss frame, the lower traction loss frame, and then after that it's just going to be cleaning up everything, grinding everything down, painting it, trying to make it look nice. And testing, of course. I'll probably start doing the testing before I make it look pretty. But that is the next step. I'll drop another video once I have more progress. Talk to you guys later.